First and foremost, let me thank each and every one of you for being here. This is grand to have so many people that are interested in the subject and are willing to discuss what we have chosen as the subject for tonight's meeting. We appreciate your interest, and we look forward to presenting our case and your case as well. So sit back, enjoy it. Let me give you a brief overview of what our objectives are. We want to provide the members with insight into why our bylaws require a 66 2/3 supermajority to pass changes to bylaws and assessments, how they affect the way we do our business, and how a change to 50% majority might more accurately reflect the desires of the majority of our members. And likewise, and you can hold me to this, we are interested in hearing what your ideas and thoughts are relative to this change. The manner in which we are going to achieve this objective is Mr. Bartholomew will make a PowerPoint presentation that provides an overview of the history of the 66 2/3 vote, how it has affected PPOA business over time, and how we perceive changing to a 50% majority will impact PPOA business. I will then open the floor to questions and discussion, and one of the rules for the question and answer portion of the meeting is all questions and discussion will be conducted with full professional respect for each other's opinion. Any questions? Okay, one of the things we probably need to do is silence our cell phones. I generally don't do that until I remind myself, so you may want to silence your cell phones. If there are no questions, I'm going to ask Mr. Bartholomew to proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening we're going to talk about 4 ballot items. First of all, Article 16, Section 1. Can anybody see that, or is that blurry to you? Okay, if we can have... okay, we'll get Keith in here to adjust that a little bit, Keith. Is that a little better?
I don't have enough cord.
That's better.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Okay, the 4 ballot initiatives are Article 16, Section 1, change the voting requirement to approve new or revised bylaw changes. Article 13, Section 4, change the voting requirements to approve assessment increases. Article 16, Section 4, change the number of member signatures required to get a proposed amendment of an existing bylaw on the ballot. And number 4, Article 7, Section 13A, change the number of member signatures required to request the removal of a board member. So let's go over a little history. First of all, the original turnover agreement stated that bylaws could be changed by a majority vote of the membership. And this same agreement allowed the developer 1 vote for each lot he possessed. And in the early 80s, the membership voted to change that to a 2/3 so that the developer would not have undue influence over the voting procedure. And the original turnover agreement stated that a monthly assessment could be changed with a 2/3 voting majority of members voting. This is a history of all the elections that have failed. You probably can't read that, but there's quite a lot of history there back in the early 90s where quite a few assessments failed. And then the asset reserve was not even started till the year 2000. And so back in the 90s especially, there were a lot of deferred maintenance, and the association really did not have the funds to maintain the assets or to keep up with new assets or even think about new assets. So the costs of the failed elections because of the supermajority vote, limited funds needed for operations, the asset reserve fund, and finally roads. And some of you have lived here for a long time might remember how the roads used to be compared to how beautiful New Westover Road is. As a result of the supermajority vote, the association struggled financially for many years. I remember when I first came, we were holding checks. We just didn't have enough cash flow to even maintain operations. In almost all cases, the ballot items would have passed with a majority vote, allowing the association to fund a growing membership. And then in 2004, after 2 attempts in numerous previous elections, a $25 increase was passed in November of 2004. And this was really significant. This really was kind of the turning point of the association. 13 went to operations. $3 went to the Capital Reserve Fund, adding to the $5 that was voted in the year 2000, and $9 to the Road Fund. In addition to that, it extended the $10 that was voted on previously for the roads to 2014, and the Bridge Fund to $575 to 2014. So let's move forward. The need for a 2/3 vote of the membership does not reflect Pecan Plantation's current needs and is preventative to the members' desired new amenities. The developer relinquished a majority of his voting rights, and now he actually has 11 votes, to be exact. And the requirement for a 2/3 vote to change our bylaws and assessments are controlled by 1/3 of the members that vote currently. We did have some assessments that did pass. You can see back in the 90s, a few assessments passed, and as I said, there was not an asset reserve fund until the year 2000 when $5 was dedicated to the reserve fund. So during the 90s, that was a period where there just wasn't any money to take care of our assets. And as a result of that, the roads deteriorated, as did our assets. And then you can see in the year 2004, the assessment initiative passed, I just talked about. And then last year, 2013, the extension of the $10 roads and drainage fund, special assessment for 2024 for the roads at $10 got extended, $5 for operations, and the $575 for the bridge going to operations as of November of this year. And you can see, this is CPI adjusted, and you can see back in the early days, we were pretty much consistent with the CPI, and then here recently, you can see that the CPI adjusted has gone a little bit south, and now CPI adjusted, the dues theoretically should be, according to CPI, $100.06. Looking at membership growth, you can see we experienced some great growth back in the early 2000s. 2003, 135. These are net new members, amount of members coming in versus amount of members leaving. And you can see we were on quite a little growth spurt there until the recession of 2009, and then it just ground to a halt. But then again in 2012, it started to pick up, 22 net members. Last year, 19 net members. And this year, I believe we're going to end with 27 net new members, 2,952. So you can see the association is growing. And we need to ask the question, and all the members need to ask the question, does it make sense to allow 1/3 of the members that vote to determine if the association gets the needed funding to operate and maintain a new amenity? New amenities are going to be a necessity in the future to sustain the current quality of life. New amenities only require a majority vote for that new amenity. But to operate that new amenity, it takes 66 2/3. So a majority of members could want a new amenity, but then it takes 66 2/3 of the members voting to fund that amenity. Majority voting allows Pecan members to control the destiny of Pecan and our future quality of life. Property values. As we grow, new amenities will be required to support the increase in Pecan's population. Proper maintenance of our current and development of new amenities will attract buyers to Pecan, positively impacting property values. Members have expressed through member surveys the need for increased golf capacity, a fitness facility, and hiking and walking trails. Majority voting allows long-range plans to be executed when the need arises based on the desires and needs of the members sitting in this room and watching at home. And finally, this initiative will align our community with the majority voting that most of you are accustomed to in our county, state, and national levels. So you can ask the question, what happened to that one thing that I wanted as a new amenity? New amenities, I say, can be approved with a 50% plus one. Only $50,000 in new capital dollars can be spent by the board each year without a membership vote. And the assessment necessary to operate that new amenity requires 66 2/3. Therefore, a majority of the members may desire a new amenity, but a minority of the members could vote not to provide the means to fund that amenity. And then just to recap, here's our current verbiage on Article 16, Section 1. These bylaws may be altered, amended, or repealed, and new bylaws may be adopted by the vote of 2/3 of the members. That's the current verbiage, and the proposed verbiage is these bylaws may be altered, amended, or repealed, and new bylaws may be adopted by the vote of a majority of members in person or by proxy. That's Article 16, Section 1. Article 16, Section 4, current verbiage. If the majority of the Board of Directors rejects the proposed amendments to the bylaws, the members holding voting rights of not less than 50 of the total votes outstanding as defined in Article 5 may then submit in writing to the board the proposed amendments at least 60 days prior to the membership meeting. And then that would be placed on the ballot. That's how it currently is. The proposed verbiage is to change that to 10% of the membership. So it would read, if a majority of the Board of Directors rejects the proposed amendment to the bylaws, the members may submit in writing to the board the proposed amendment containing at least 10% of the association's members' signatures at least 60 days prior. Article 7, Section 13A, the current verbiage, is procedure for removal of directors, requires currently 50 members in good standing, actually just 50 members. And the new verbiage, again, 10% of the membership. So any member may submit to the board a written request, but it would require for the removal of a director of the board at least 10% of the current membership. And then finally, Article 13, Section 4, the current verbiage is the maximum annual assessment may be modified by a 2/3 vote of a quorum present and voting at a meeting of the members of the association. And the proposed verbiage is the maximum annual assessment may be changed by a vote of the majority of the members, either in person or by proxy, at any regular or special meeting of the members at which a quorum is present. And so those are the 4 items that you'll be voting on in March. And at this time, we'd like to open it up for any questions you may have. We have a mic stand over here, and we have board members that are here to assist as needed. So if anybody would like to come up and has a question, please come up to the mic stand, and please state your name and then ask your question. We'll do our best to answer your questions. If you can come up to the mic stand so we can... Thank you, Keith.
Okay, my name is Charlene Henderson. We've lived here for 13 and a half years. And the question I have is, how did we get around the membership vote for the update and remodeling of the Brazos Room?
Current assets do not require a membership vote, so that was a current asset, and it's just like the road, we didn't have a vote for the Westover Road, so if it's a current asset, that does not require a membership vote, just new assets in excess of $50,000. So any current asset that we have on our books that we currently have, if you can update that or replace it without a membership vote.
Okay. That was a pretty expensive little remodel job.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay, sure.
That's very good. My name is Ron Luttrell. As of this month, we will have lived here 15 years. A few years ago, I participated on a long-range planning committee, and we went out and looked at a lot of other homeowners associations. And one of the things I got out of that is what I call a relatively conservative financial approach to business, provided us in a very affordable community and provided us with good amenities. So it was a good approach. We saw some really drastic things that can happen financially. My comments here, first of all, in general, I think it's a bad idea, and I'm going to tell you why. It opens the door for very special interest groups, and I'm going to give you the numbers. We talked about a third here, but it's a whole lot less than that that's going to be controlling what we do. The other one, it facilitates additional liberal spending. For the last year, I don't know about you, but I get all these requests that come up, and I appreciate receiving the requests for spending. And I've been starting to get the sense that we've been kind of liberal with our money, and I'm going to give you some specifics of where we're headed with our capital reserves and how I feel that way. The one thing we talked about, 10%. As of the end of last month, we had 2,950 voting members here in Pecan, and I was told it might go up. So I rounded off to 3,000 for voting members and 6,000 for the general population of Pecan. I know that's close, but the 3,000 certainly is. Now, what we're talking about, I'm going to change impact here. The first are pretty straightforward. You talk about takes 50 members to come and ask for a request for a change or remove a board member, and they talk about 10%, but 10% is 300. So it's a big number. It kind of prevents the board from being questioned going forward, or the bylaw change that we think might be necessary. Okay, now, using the article that was in, but the board put in the last columns, 37% of voters, possible voters, vote. Okay, so what does that mean? That means the number required to increase our dues would be 740 today, but it'd be only 555 tomorrow. So it's not like a third of the members. It's not like 1,000. It's closer to 500 that would control our dues. Second of all, if you look at that 555, that of the 6,000 people we have out here, we got 9% individuals who's controlling all the 6,000, impacting the 6,000 people. So that may be stretching it from, you look at it that way, but it's not a third. That's the whole point. A third of the people aren't really going to vote one way or to impact us. Okay, the two liberal spending. If you look at the last audit report for the year 2013 and 14, you'll show that it shows our capital reserve, and as Michael pointed out, we didn't have much until about 19 or 2000, whatever that was, and that was a real good move we made, and you need reserve. All of us has a household that we have issues. We know we better have something in the bank to take care of those emergencies that happen to us regularly. Okay, we have 1,600,000 right now. The projected amount in 2019 and 2020 is $630,000. That's just about how much we need on average to put in every year just to cover. So if anything really unexpected happened, we got a problem. So my question is, why do we have 1 million less projected? It tells me we're anticipating some pretty strong spending and not accounting for it from a conservative standpoint. And the last thing, somebody already mentioned the Brazos room and $420,000. And my first thought of that, you could build 2 houses for that. One of the things that got me, a request came through to capitalize silverware, and I questioned that and sent a note. And I've had a lot of accounting courses too, and get my MBA, and it didn't seem right. But the finance committee, I'm sure, properly said, yeah, that's what we're doing is a legitimate thing here. But my sense is we've been spending money a little bit more liberal than we had in the past years, and this change is going to allow the board and special interest groups to charge more freely than in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luttrell. The Capital Asset Reserve study, and actually it's a living, breathing document that we update every month that Mr. Luttrell was referring to. We adjust that on an annual basis each budget year. We take all the assets. A couple of years ago, we inventoried every single asset in the association, all 1,400 of them. And what we did is we put a useful life and a dollar value on what it costs to replace that with an inflation factor with the help of the Finance Committee and the department managers. Each department manager sat down with the Finance Committee and myself, and we went through every single asset and then put the year that we think that it should be replaced. And that has changed many, many times. It was just updated last month, and the numbers that Mr. Luttrell referred to have been moved forward because we're going to delay one of our major projects for a couple of years, and now that $600,000 is over $1 million. We do have $1.6 million in our capital asset reserve fund right now. With the capital assets that we have planned for next year, we'll still have $1.1 million at the end of next year. This year, because of the initiation fees, the $8 that you pay every single month, we're going to fund it to the tune of about $920,000 this year, a very healthy capital asset reserve fund. Does anybody else have any questions about the asset reserve fund or questions in particular? Come on up.
Go ahead.
My name is Judy Hatch, and I just moved in here in June. I swore to God I would never get involved with another HOA. The last one that we were involved with was up on Orcas Island in East Sound. The manager went to jail for embezzling over $1 million in 3 years. Okay? So you said that you have these expenditures that you're going to do. One of them was $600,000, and there was a $1.1 million down the road. What are those expenditures?
They're assets, current assets that we have throughout the whole association.
I understand, but what are those assets that you're referring to?
There's 1,400 of them. So the asset reserve study is on our website. And if you email me, I'd be happy to show you how to get there. But it involves every single asset that you see throughout the whole association in every department. And sooner or later, vehicles on the road and grounds crew are going to need to be replaced. It involves all of those items, pool repairs, everything that you see, can touch that's an asset, at some point will have to be either upgraded or replaced down the road, just like the Westover project that we just finished.
So it's down the road. We have almost 1.6 in reserves right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to put those off? How much more reserves are we going to build up during that time?
Well, it'll change every single year based on the assets that need to be replaced for that year. If an asset is scheduled for replacement, but it doesn't need to be replaced, we move it forward to future years.
Okay.
And just like when we had a critical failure of one of our irrigation pumps this year, we weren't expecting that. We had that to be replaced in 2 years, but unfortunately we just spent $30,000 this year, or else we wouldn't have been able to irrigate the golf course. So it's a living, breathing document. Finance Committee looks at it, all the department managers, and that determines, what we spend and what we don't spend. And then we go through a 2-day review process with the Finance Committee and the board, and each of the department managers gets up and explains what capital assets that they'd like to have replaced this year, and we have a thoughtful conversation back and forth about those capital assets. And if we can delay them, we do delay them, and sometimes we have to move them forward.
Okay. Well, I heard about tonight a silverware fund that you guys were looking at for the new Brazos room. And during the garage sale, I believe you were selling off assets. I didn't know anything about it until I saw it on Facebook. And I'm thinking that maybe we should think about spending our money a little bit more frugally, because what's happening here is I don't want my fees to go up. They're pretty reasonable at $141 a month. I don't want to see it go up to $1,400 a month like it was up in Orcas. I do not want to see that.
I can guarantee it won't go up to $1,400 a month.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, sir.
sir. Good evening. My name is Neil Goldson. I live on Ravenswood, and I'm part of the 135 that came out here in 2003. I will support a dues increase if you need it, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. First, I'd like to say the Pecan Plantation Board is indeed fortunate, or the Pecan Plantation is indeed fortunate to have the quality of people serving on the board and their willingness to serve. I would also like to compliment the administrative staff, who I believe is doing a very good job in managing Pecan Plantation. That said, for the proposals that are requesting changes to our charter and constitution, I say constitution because our charter is the Pecan Plantation Constitution. I believe the Pecan Board of Directors are going in the wrong direction on pushing this vote to a simple majority on something that is important to governing Pecan Plantation. 50% plus one is not necessarily the best way to govern an organization. It allows frivolous changes to sneak past. Some things are too important and which may have too much of an impact to be changed by a simple majority vote. The two-thirds requirement was not previously put in our original charter. Even though the developers' concerns played a part in determining this, I do not believe it was the determining factor. It was a safety provision to protect ourselves from ourselves, to ensure that any changes are well planned, well thought out, presented in a good business plan that needs to be done. This was done to ensure changes that had the support of the supermajority of the citizens. On Article 13, which is assessment increases, this is our tax to ourselves to run Pecan. This had nothing to do with the developer, but was to ensure that a supermajority of our citizens supported an increase and that it really addressed the important requirements within Pecan. This safeguard in Pecan Plantation is not unique, for this two-thirds majority provision is found elsewhere for the same reason. Two important ones come to mind is the United States Constitution. One making confirming treaties requires two-thirds of the Senate to approve. The second one, Congress, whenever two-thirds of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution or the application of the legislatures of two-thirds of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments. Ladies and gentlemen, these are safeguards to ensure that a supermajority of the citizens support these changes. This is true as well for Pecan Plantation. Don't vote to do away with these safeguards, for we'll never get them back. This does not mean that some things will not pass. That's true. Yes, it does mean that things won't pass. But it also makes the people proposing the changes to do their homework. And since I've been here at Pecan, I have witnessed that a number of changes to our charters have been brought forth, and a number of them have passed. This goes for the assessment increases as well. Ladies and gentlemen, of Pecan, I urge you to vote against these proposed changes and stripping away from us the very important safeguards. I want to thank to the Board of Pecan Plantations and the citizens of Pecan Plantation for the time and allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from anybody? Sure, come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Bill Enright, and I've been here since 2006 in this wonderful place we call Pecan Plantation. And we appreciate all the board members. Remember, they're not paid. They're volunteers, and so we sure would be a heck of a sight if we didn't have all these great volunteers. My concern is that right now we've got the 66% vote. Have we really had anything that where the board thought that we needed something and we didn't get it because of that problem over the past, 30 years? Has there really been a problem with that? You had a list of things up there, but I mean something really big, important that we didn't have, that all the members suffered for it.
Well, the assessments back in the early days, obviously, we didn't have enough money to run the association, and before the Capital Asset Reserve Fund was formulated, there was not any money to replace or to update our current assets. And so over the years, it's gotten much better. But you saw the numbers early on. It was not a pretty picture. This association was very underfunded in both the Capital Asset Reserve side and the operations side.
But now, as our economy improves, we're getting more and more members coming in. I see the $3,000 introductory fee that we have to pay, and the clubhouse is looking better every year. I think we're spending our money wisely. Another concern is that why do we only have a third of our potential members voting? What is going on that we can't get at least 50%? That's the problem here.
Yeah.
Is there anybody thought about how we can improve that participation rate?
It's similar to the national elections. There's a lot of people don't vote, and we wish everybody would vote. And we encourage everybody to vote. But that's all you can do is encourage people. I mean, we try to encourage people to vote. It's your association, and you have a chance every March to elect your directors and any other bylaws or other initiatives that are on the ballot. And I would strongly encourage everybody to vote. That's your right, and I think you should exercise it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Doug.
Mr. Enright, I'm Deb Franz, and I'm on the board. And I think your question is a question that the board also asks themselves about, has there ever been a reason of late, anyway, that something that was truly needed by the association that was not passed by the association? And I would say that has not been the case. We have been very fortunate that we've been able to present a good picture and a good story for what is needed, and members have listened to that. I think one of the things that this board is looking towards is the future. One of the things Michael mentioned in his presentation is that new amenities require only 50 simple majority to pass. But the problem lies with financially being able to afford those amenities. And our membership continues to grow, and we're just looking at the future of Pecan, the direction. We did a survey, a long-term plan 2 or 3 years ago, where we do want new amenities, and we want Pecan to be prepared for those amenities and to financially to be able to afford them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Franson. Yes, sir. Come on up to the podium.
Is this one on?
It is.
Okay. The question was asked, have we ever had something that didn't pass because of the two-thirds? The answer to that is, my goodness, yes. We almost collapsed in 2004 because of the two-thirds requirement. We tried to pass assessment to get the roads recovered because the roads were literally falling apart. Those who've been here for a while can well remember that. And our houses were no longer selling. In fact, we were being taken off the list of outfits, that places where they would show houses, the realtors would show houses because of our roads and because this place literally was also falling apart. That was about the time I hired Michael. We almost didn't have enough money to pay Michael. In fact, we didn't have enough money to pay him properly at the time, to be honest with you. So the answer to that is yes. Two-thirds is a mighty tall hill to climb. It's hard to get two-thirds of people to vote for the mother. 60% would be much more reasonable, but 66 and two-thirds is almost impossible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Howdy, my name's Dave Bishop. I do appreciate the board, and I know it's a thankless job. and I appreciate the effort that all the volunteers do. Just a couple of very brief points. Number one, there's diversity out here. I'm maybe one of the younger guys, so to speak. But to me, that's okay. I'm getting there. But the point is it seems to me, it's a moving target. So I realized 13, 14 years ago, there may have been this need. But as we look at the history of the last few years, we've passed some very significant changes. The golf course, there's been some significant things that the 66 2/3 did pass. And it seems like that just keeps the special interest, and I'm going to use golf as an example, and I'm not picking on golfers. I'm just, there's a minority of people in Pecan that actually golf, but the golfers are somewhat of a majority of ones that actually are involved. And that's not a bad thing, but this is a protection to me of special interest, and I'm just using golf as an example. I'm not against golfers at all. But whatever it may be, I can't think of another example. So it seems like it's working. We're not in the situation that we were in. If we look like we're moving toward that in the near future, maybe let's take a look at it at that time. But it seems like it's working, and we haven't lost out in the recent past of something that we really needed, in my estimation. I've only lived here 7 years. But anyway, that's all. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Rubenius. Some of you know me as Robo. I like all the comments that have been made today. I've heard them many times over the 15 years that I've lived here. I want to say a couple things. First, Michael, you made a statement that you could guarantee that the assessment wouldn't go to $1,400. But I don't think you can ever make a guarantee like that, because you don't know what effect special interest groups can have on an association like this. At one town hall meeting 5 or 6 years ago, when we were trying to pass an assessment, we had a consultant in here that was suggesting that other clubs like ours were paying $300, $400, and $500 a month to have what we have, $450. I've lived here 15 years. I've voted for every assessment increase that's been brought before us except one. And that was a poorly planned one that had incremental increases of $1 or $2 over 2 or 3 years, and it failed miserably. But all the rest of them I voted for because I felt that they were properly substantiated. The Homeowners Association needed that money, so I voted for it. And most of them had passed. Now, we talk about the year 2004, how financial difficulties we had. We introduced a large expense to this association when we opened the PAC, roughly $200,000 a year to run the PAC. Now, the basis behind having the PAC was good. The developer wanted 1,500 more lots. We voted in 1998 or 1999 to let him have those lots, and in return, he built the PAC, gave us a swimming pool, built the track, walking track, and other amenities. But the problem was our growth stopped. We weren't getting any revenue off of those 1,500 lots to help pay for those. So it was a net cost to us to operate the PAC, an immediate $200,000 hit to our budget. We had no offsetting income to offset the PAC cost. Now, one other subject, and I'm through. About 2004 or 5, we also had a big push out here to add something called user fees. It went to a vote, user fees. It was suggested, perhaps, that to help defray the cost of golf, if it passed, maybe golfers would pay an additional $80, $100 a month to play golf. Now, that failed big time also. But my fear is when special interest groups, and we have a bunch of them out here. Golf is a big one. I'm a golfer. It's a big special interest group. We have the airport. That's a big special interest group. We have different special interest groups out here that could muster enough to push something through with a simple majority. And I agree. Our bylaws are our Constitution. I don't believe those bylaws were created to be easily changed, just like our Constitution was not, the framers of our Constitution don't want it to be easy to amend that Constitution. It's hard to amend the Constitution. And I think it should be a little more difficult than to have and say, well, 51% of the people want this. I'm going to tell you, having been here 15 years, it's not going to pass. But there are reasons it's not going to pass, and it's been really well spoken of right here why this is not going to pass. It doesn't provide any protection against special interest groups. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have any other questions from the audience? Sure, come on up.
Pete Anderson, and I've been here 20 plus years. That said, I'm sure it has, but would you consider putting the vote up for an assessment without changing the bylaws so that we don't have to worry about the two-thirds majority and we could just vote on the assessments and then we could push for why we need to raise the assessments? I've already heard some good reasons. The $200,000 hit a year on the PAC, which I don't want to see go away, is a lot. And there's a lot of people that may vote for an assessment just to keep that alive.
Thank you, sir. Anybody like to respond from the board? Okay. If you could come up so that we can... Yeah, White, be careful.
It's me again, Charlene. I don't know how many of you have gone to the county tax assessor website, but I would really encourage all of you to go there. So all you have to do is type in the name of the street you're on, and that will bring up everybody on that street and what their taxes or what their property values were 2 years ago. They were very good. Our house in the last 2 years has lost $42,000. The house across the street lost $62,000. The house next door to us lost $44,000. The one next to them, they lost $64,000. So why are our property values going down so much, and we continue to want more money out of the members when we will never get the money back that we've put in our own home? Personally, we've put in $81,000 into our home. We won't see hardly any of that. We would be lucky to walk away and sell it for what we paid for it. And we're all in the same boat out here. You take a look what they're asking out on Equestrian and what they were asking 3 and 4 years ago. It's a huge difference. And this is something that we really have to consider when we decide that we want to change our voting system. I mean, we will have no control whatsoever. There are so many widows and widowers living here who live on Social Security alone that they cannot and will not be able to afford the increase in dues that this corporation is going to try and pass.
Any other questions? If you can approach the mic, please. Thank you.
When you make a statement that a simple majority, 51% of the people who vote in any given election are the majority who might want these new amenities, and yet you call the 62 2/3% that votes against funding it a minority, They have a name for that. It's fuzzy math. And it doesn't work. What it really is a power grab. It's a power grab by management, by the board, by special interest groups. And what it means to you as the voter is that you're giving up your property rights. You're giving up your vote into the hands of a fewer number of people. So think about that before you vote. And remember last year when we were trying to get the assessment passed and we didn't have money to mow the grass, and we didn't have money to fund the deer management program. We didn't have money for all of these things, and now we have money to spend $400,000 on a single room in the clubhouse when we could take the parking lot and build an entire freestanding building in it for a restaurant if we wanted to for the same amount of money. We have a neon sign when you come in the front gate that blinds you at night, flashing whatever the message du jour is. We have money to spend in excess now, whereas last year we couldn't mow the grass. There's a reason why our bylaws are protected by that two-thirds majority, and it's so that the special interest group, the minority, the true minority, cannot take the ball and run with it without the rest of us at least being aware of what's happening. It has to come to a vote. So yes, they can spend money on refurbishing a particular room or whatever the remodeling project of the day is. But we need to remember that our property rights are sacred, and we should not give those up because we will never get them back. I'm Shauna Lowry. Sorry, I should have mentioned that first. I'm Shauna Lowry. I live on Ravenswood. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Do you want to have a comment? Any other questions or comments? Yes, Wallach?
I'd like to make a statement, a comment on that power struggle. A power by the board. I have a fiduciary responsibility to you. If I fail to meet that fiduciary responsibility, you can put me in jail. It's that simple. You asked me to make a long-range plan to continue to grow the quality of life. When I look down the road at my fiduciary responsibility, I see it's going to be some difficult decisions. A power struggle by the board, this is not a top-down run organization. This is a bottoms-up organization. Our committees put in over 100,000 hours a year, 100,000 hours a year going through the process to bring stuff up to the board, and then if we have to go beyond 50,000, we pass it out to you. If you don't want it, that's okay by me. I'm not going to force anything down anybody's throat. I will give you what I think you want. If you say no, that's okay by me. I've been on this board 2 years, and in the 2 years I've been on the board, Michael Bartholomew has not once stood in a staff meeting and given direction to this board. Not once. He's never given direction to the board. There's a few minority of people out there that feel like the board is at the beck and call of Michael Bartholomew. No, we're not. What has he done for us? He's prevented us from making mistakes that happened 15 years ago when he went through it. If we ask him, how's this going to get down the road? Mike says, I've been down the road. The lawyers have ruled on this. It's a waste of time. And so we don't waste your money doing stuff like that. But there's no power play here. I promise you that. I was voted by you people. You asked me to run, and my platform was quality of life for the people in Pecan. That's still my goal. The board has got an architectural engineer. It's got a CPA. It's got a doctor. It's got a judge. It's got an ex-president of a PPOA. It's got 2 vice presidents, who people were vice presidents of corporations that were responsible to shareholders, fiduciary responsibility. They go to jail if they mismanage money. We do not plan on mismanaging your money. This is not a power struggle. If you tell me you don't want something, it won't happen. It's that simple. Everything comes back to you.
I think it's important that we understand what it is that the board has done to bring this to a vote. It is our feeling that this was developed some time ago, and the need for a 2/3 majority is not at the same level as it was before. There was a reason we had a two-thirds majority. And I don't disagree with what people are saying about we need checks and balances, but the board is of the position that let's vote on it. Let's see what the people want. Do they want to go to a 50% plus one? If they don't, if the majority do not, then we don't. And guess what? We can live with that. There's no reason we can't. We've lived with it how many years? We can still live with it. But the idea is let the members decide. Yeah, if you want to get on the mic, well, please do that. But that's exactly what we're concerned about, is give the people an opportunity to say yay or nay, and if they say nay, we're not going to die. We're going to continue to function fully, just like we always have. It's not a power struggle. There is nothing involved with that. It is simply asking our members, do you want to simplify this to a majority rules? And you have to understand, when we talk about, well, there's only this many people in the majority, there's also a small group that is in the minority. It works the same way. There's not a difference between the two, okay? Relatively. But that's all we're after. And the points that you all have made, those are good points. You've got good opinions. And I told you at the beginning, we were here to listen to what you had to say and your thoughts and your ideas. And that's where we are. So, more questions?
Thank you. My name is Bruce Lockwood, and I've been here for about 12 and a half years. And I still don't know how I'm going to vote on this. I really don't. That's why I came here tonight, completely open mind. I wanted to hear both sides. It is a tough question, because what we're talking about is how are we going to govern ourselves in the future. The past is prologue. We've made a lot of mistakes back in the past, but somehow we've survived and we've thrived. And we're still thriving. And I trust my neighbors. I trust that they will vote what they think is the right thing, and we will keep on growing. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a comment? Comment or question, anybody? Mr. Heinesman, would you like to wrap it up?
All right. Please come forward. The judge is going to speak.
I'm Wynette Burns, and I have one comment I'd like to make about the comparison of the bylaws to the Constitution of the United States. There's a document that's on file with the deed records of the county that's called a declaration. That declaration sets out deed restrictions and determines the character of this neighborhood. That document requires 67% of all the people who own property to change. That is much like, and these rights and obligations that are in the declaration go with the land, and they can be around for hundreds of years because they keep being conveyed with the property. This is very similar to the Constitution of the United States that requires both houses of the Congress to approve, and then 2/3 votes of all the states to approve. It's a high level, and for good reason. But our Congress at any time can make new laws, and that is more comparable to what the bylaw function is. The bylaws are a changing document. In some homeowners associations, the board of directors themselves can change the terms of the bylaws. There is no set number. Many associations have a majority. some have 66%, but the bylaws are meant to be a flexible document that can be changed by the population as it currently exists. So that's all I have to say. Any questions about that?
Would anybody like to question that? Thank you, Judge Burns. Well, in concluding, again, let me thank all of you. I appreciate the remarks. I think there's two sides to the story. I want to assure each and every one of you that regardless of how this vote comes out, we're going to survive. We're going to continue to be a quality place to live, someplace that we're extremely proud of. I'm not certain about the property values because my property values have not declined. I don't know why, but mine haven't. As most of you have, mine hasn't. Certainly has not. Yours hasn't either. So I don't know where all that happens, but that we haven't had that decline because my taxes haven't changed either. So I appreciate if you'd like to speak, ma'am. No. I don't think you're talking to. I'm saying you're fine. I'm just saying mine hasn't changed. Okay? That's all I know. Anyway, any other questions or thoughts? Give this careful consideration. I agree with Mr. Lockwood. It is a difficult question. The only reason we bring it up is we think it's important to the future of how we govern pecan plantation. It has nothing to do with this board or with a power grab. There's nothing involved with that at all. All it involves is how are we going to govern in the future. And if you believe that it's important that a simple majority makes the decision, fine. If you think it ought to remain at 66 2/3, we understand and we're going to survive. Board, do you have any other comments?
Just one. I'm John Baker, board member. And my only point is that the discussion's been good. I came from a board where the board could determine what you do in terms of assessments. Worked for us there, doesn't always work here. Depends on what's going on because people are going up and down with different economic stratus, different things going on. There's a downturn in the economy, property values drop. An upturn, property values go up. It's like everything else. You used to pay, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 for a car 10 years ago. Cost you a lot more today. It's a very dynamic economy we're in. And I just want to make a point that where we are now, we had about, I think the numbers were, we have 3,000 people. We have on average about 1,000, let's say, that vote. It's right around 1097 that have been voting in our previous elections. The way we manage right now, 300 people determine the future of pecan plantation. By changing that a bit because the third turns everything down. By going to 50 plus 1, we're basically saying 500 people can determine. It's not the right number. We'd like to have all 3,000 show up and vote. But right now, we are in minority control, and if the population is fine with that, that's the way we stay. Wally made a great point about this being a very bottom-up organization. Volunteers tell us, and eventually decisions come to the board. We're a decision-making apparatus. That's all we are. We think we can make better decisions at 50.1. You may not feel that way, and if you don't, you're certainly entitled to vote no. It'll be interesting to see how the election comes out, but remember, all we're asking for is a vote. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Mr. Maurer.
My name is Robert Maurer, and I'm on this board also. I would encourage all of you people who are so interested in the future of this association to get in touch with the nominating committee chairman and run for the board next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
I'd like to second Bob's remarks on the board. We're always looking for good candidates. I'm Ray Lewis, and I'm chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee. So I'm tasked and have been for 3 years with trying to see where we're going in the future. Not to look at today or tomorrow, but to look where are we going to be down the road. You saw the uptick in membership. We've seen people express golf as being a controlling minority. They're still a relatively, maybe a third of the people in Pecan. They're not a supermajority by any means. There is no supermajority. We need your ideas, and I want to second the comments that were made by others to ask you to get involved with the committee structure. There should not be a single person here who has strong feelings, who believes in the direction where this association goes, that sits up here and complains if they aren't going to get involved with a committee and work to make it better. There is no hierarchy. There are people like us that are tasked with making decisions. When the decision comes up, you can only vote yes or no. That's all we've got the choice to do. The real work is all the committee work that's done for months in advance, preparing things to come forward. One of the things we do in the long-range planning is to try to develop a structure of where we're going to be 10 years out. It isn't right, but it's a snapshot in time that's the best right now that we can forecast. And it allows all the board to make a vote on things in context with what we spend today versus what we're going to need tomorrow versus what we're going to need the next day, and make some educated judgments as to whether we deplete the asset reserve today and worry about tomorrow, or whether we save a little bit for tomorrow and try to see where we're going. That's an important planning for your community to maintain the value. Every committee has structure like that. That just happens to be the one I'm most involved with. So if you feel strongly, and there's a lot of people here that do, get involved. Tell us in the planning stage as we work our way up so that we get the right options, the best thought out options to vote yes or no on when it comes to the board. I probably won't be here doing it because this is my last year, but somebody will. Give them the benefit of your thoughts in the committee structure. Don't complain about it when they get up to the final vote, but do it early, and then you'll be happy with the results.
Thank you, Ray. Any other comments? Well, let me thank each and every one of you. I thought the questions and discussion was quite civil, quite reasonable, professional, and respectful, and for that I am grateful. I thank you and bid you good night.